my boss was one time was like, while you're here, I want you to be here. I want you to work. I hope, whatever it is you're trying to do comes true. I hope your band gets a record deal. I hope you do this. And I was like, head in my hands, like, I have a record deal and I'm still here. Why am I here?
Yeah.
And so
Jeez,
anyway.
that's a super, like, I mean, I feel like that's kind of common where someone gets a record deal and they just, it's not as glorious as people imagine it. Like, most bands have record deals and still fail.
It is
sucks.
Unfortunately all too common. It's getting a record deal, I think, is amongst like the indie music world is seen as like the goal. And once you get the record deal, everything's good after that. I've hit easy street. But in reality, getting a record deal is like getting into college. The hard work just begins. All this work you thought was hard beforehand is a joke compared to what you're about to have to go through. And it doesn't even mean you'll get a diploma. In our case, we paid our money and the professor just didn't show up. It's like, all right, well, I guess we're not going to go to that class anymore, but we still have to pay tuition. So that's kind of what a record deal's like. And if you're lucky, the professor does show up, and then the one after that, and then eventually you end up in a point where you can start making some decisions for yourself. But I'm not gonna dog anybody like who we worked with because everybody was cool. Like everybody who worked with us in the studio was amazing. I learned so much from that experience of cutting that record. Particularly, we did 3 singles with Josh Abraham, and he's produced bands like Stain and Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and like Velvet Revolver, like all kinds of crazy stuff. And Ryan Williams engineered it, and he's done a ton of stuff like 30 Seconds to Mars, and I think he worked on Aquemini for Outkast, like crazy cool stuff. And so they were rad. And then the guy who signed us, Jason Flom, is the guy who signed about a quarter of the major catalog that exists on radio at any given time. And he was super cool to us too. Like, he wasn't a jerk. It just, there was a thing going on, I think, outside of us that we didn't know anything about, and it just ended up not working. Like, even Jason was really cool about it when he finally let us go. He was like apologetic. Like, man, I'm sorry. This just didn't work. So you can't point your finger at anybody and be like, man, you screwed us. Because that's not what happened. It just didn't work, which is super frustrating. It's like, they're your dreams. Bye.
That's almost worse than not getting the deal in the first place, because it's like you had it, you felt like you made it, and then in reality, the college example is a nice way to look at it. Like, you got to a place where you kind of just getting started, and then it just kind of flopped, and then it's almost like going to college and then getting kicked out of college,
Right, exactly. Yeah, so it was, I feel like I've sufficiently name-dropped and look like a douche now, but it was a really informative experience in my career, and it set me up for success after that in a big way because I learned so much. And it also, like, put a lot of wind in my sails to be like, hey, I can compete. Like, I can do this.
Right, yeah.
Somebody saw something in me and my bandmates that was worth something. So clearly I'm doing something right. I need to keep going. I think if not for that experience, I not necessarily would have given up, but I surely wouldn't have believed in myself as heavily and as soon as I did, I think.